Okay, now we're going to do something that is a little bit tricky, but we're basically going to make another spline for the rest of this um, stem. So I'm gonna choose this axis right here, which is the XY axis, the same one that we drew our the original spline on. But before I do that, I don't want to see this plane anymore, so I'm going to right click it and just turn the visibility off. You don't want to delete the plane because this extrusion we just made depends on it, so I'm just going to turn the visibility off. And I'm going to choose the XY plane, click on it, create a new sketch, and what I'm going to do is create a spline that comes off of here in kind of a stem-like way. So I'm going to grab my spline tool, I'm going to lock on to this area right here, and I'm going to make 3 little dots. So I'm going to make one, I've already made one, and I'm going to make another one here, and one right there. Right click and create. Alright, so we got 3 little dots here. Finish sketch. I'm going to do the same thing, create my plane. So I'm going to go to plane, normal to curve at point. I'm going to click this point right here and then click the curve. And then I'm going to choose plane one more time, normal to curve at point. And I'm going to click the point and the line here again. So I got my 2 planes, and this is going to be my third basically. So I'm going to click on this plane right here, create a new sketch, and I'm going to do the same kind of thing I did before for this part of the stem. I'm going to make a circle, and this time I want the circle to be a little bit smaller, and so I'm going to do it at about 1.3 or so. Yeah, that's good. And I'm going to do the same thing I did with the circles as well. I'm going to come up to the very top, make a circle, and this time my circle I'm going to make it about 0.3 in size, and I'm going to trim this top part of the circle off and this part of the circle off as well, and I'm going to do the same kind of circular pattern I did before. So I'm going to circular pattern, this is my geometry, and I'm going to use my rotation axis as the circle right here so that there's 6 of them. Go ahead and click OK, and then I'm going to click trim, and I'm going to trim off these remaining parts of my circle. Hit finish sketch, and last plane right here, make a new sketch one more time. I'm going to make another circle. This time my diameter has to be very, very small because this is where the stem is kind of coming to an end basically. So I'm just going to make it 0.75. And I'm going to do the same thing with my circle tool again. I'm going to come up here to the top, make another circle. This one's got to be really small, so about 0.2 would be good. I'm going to hit my trim button, trim off this top part of the circle, trim off this part of the main circle, and then I'm going to do a circular pattern again. This is going to be my geometry. I'm going to do the axis as this big circle. 6 times is exactly what I want. Click OK. And then I'm going to trim off those remaining parts once again. So I'm going to trim that, this, 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 and this. Hit finish sketch. Now we're ready to do another loft. So I'm going to go over to my loft tool. Now look at this time, we're going to do a loft off of this shape right here. Okay, you can just choose a shape. You don't need a sketch necessarily. You just need a shape. So make sure that this whole face is highlighted when you hover over it. Click. I got one selected. Oh, whoops. I think I selected that twice. If you ever select something on accident, just cancel out of it and try it again. So I'm going to hit loft again. Click on this face right here. I'm going to click on this sketch right here. And if you can't get them because the pumpkin keeps lighting up, you can just select them here as well. So this is actually an easier way to select things, I think. So sketch 9, or this sketch over here, it's going to light up red when I hover over it. Sketch 9 and sketch 10. And click OK. And there's our stem. So we got a stem on our pumpkin. Now work plane 7 and 8 we don't want to see anymore, so I'm going to click this one and hold shift and click this one, right click, turn the visibility off. And I'm also going to turn the visibility off our sketch 8, which is the spline that we used to create this, so this little black dot will go away. Visibility off on there. And we're getting ready to create our face of our pumpkin. Okay, so to create the face of the pumpkin, we need to do an offset plane from the XY plane. This is the plane that we drew the original spline on. What we want to do is the same thing we did when we made the stem, but we want to pull the face out this direction. So I'm going to use my planes here and do an offset from plane. Now I'm going to pull this plane until the pumpkin right here goes dark. See how it's darker here and it's lighter here? It's because the plane is cutting it down right here, and as I pull it forward you're going to see that the pumpkin slowly becomes dark. That's because the plane is consuming it. It's being submerged basically. So I'm just going to go out. I'm going to go out until this part is completely dark. Right there. Mine was 11.125. Yours might be different because it depends on how big your spline was to begin with. So you don't necessarily use this number. You just pull this arrow out until you've gotten past the pumpkin so that you're right outside of the border here. Click check. Okay, on this face is where, or this plane is where I'm going to make the face of my pumpkin. So I'm going to click here, make a new sketch, and I'm just going to make a basic pumpkin like a jack-o'-lantern face, but you're going to create your own face, okay? So you can copy what I do, but you're going to end up making your own face anyway, so I'm just going to show you how to make a nice symmetrical face for your pumpkin. Okay, so I don't know what kind of eyes and nose and mouth you'd want, but for me, I'm going to create a circle. This is going to be one of my eyes. Okay, and then I'm going to create another circle right here. This is going to be the actual eyeball of my eye. And so I'm going to hit trim, and I'm going to trim off the parts I don't want. So basically, I'm going to cut this moon shape out. Okay, I'm also going to make a little mouth here. So with my arc tool, I can make a mouth. So I'm going to click here and go straight across and click, and there's one part of the mouth. And click and go across again, and I got my mouth right there, little smiley face. And if you wanted to like maybe make a little triangle nose, you could grab your polygon tool, and a 3-sided polygon should do it. And I want to make a little triangle nose right there. And let's say you wanted to mirror this guy over so you don't have to do it again. You can do a mirror inside the plane. You just need a line that you want to mirror across. So if I grab my line tool, the pumpkin is right here. It's split right down the middle, and this little dot here represents where the X and Y plane intersect. So if I just click and make a little line right here, right click, done. So I've made just a little line here. I can mirror this guy over to here. So if I hit my mirror tool, what it wants to do is select the lines or the geometry you want to mirror. So if I select this and this, I can hit my mirror line next and click on the mirror line. When I hit apply, now I've got eyes. They're kind of cross-eyed, and so they're both looking in the middle. Okay, that's how you would mirror something over. Now I'm going to go back in time. Let's say I wanted this eye, both of the eyes to be looking in one direction. So I'm going to grab my circle tool, line it up with the other eye here, and make it line up with my other circle. And make my other circle down here, trim off the parts I don't want, and now I've got the eyes looking in the other direction. You can also add teeth, so if I make a rectangle, or grab my rectangle, I can make some teeth. And you can trim off the stuff that you don't want. I'm just going around and trimming the stuff off I don't want. Now this is a moment where you can be creative. Oops, I actually shouldn't have done that. I wanted to trim this side. This is a part where you can be creative, so feel free to be creative and create. You don't have to create a traditional jack-o'-lantern mask. You can create whatever you need to. So now I've got my mouth, my eyes, my nose. If I hit finish sketch, what I'm going to do is extrude all these shapes. So I'm going to select all of my shapes here. And instead of going this direction, I'm going to pull it this direction. Go inside my pumpkin. And you want to extrude it back far enough so that it goes into the body of the pumpkin. Maybe not this far, maybe kind of in the middle. And I also want to make sure that I have selected cut instead of create material. Okay, and click OK. And there's our completed face. Alright, so now we're going to make a few other changes. I want to add some color to all these different components. So this last extrusion that I made was the part that I cut out of the pumpkin. So I'm going to right click this and I'm going to go to properties and I'm going to choose as my color black. That way my eyes will darken up so I can see them a lot better. And you're going to make the cuts in your pumpkin black as well. The other thing I want to do is make my loft, which is this guy up here, a different color as well. And I also want to turn the visibility off of this plane. So I'm going to right click and turn the visibility off so I can just see the pumpkin. This loft and this extrusion I'm going to change. So I'm going to right click the loft and go to properties. Now a good kind of stem color that I found, one of the good ones is wood oak burled. So I'm going to make this wood with oak burled in parentheses. And I'm also going to make this extrusion wood oak burled as well. Now we got that stem. And also, you can go inside the pumpkin, click on these individual faces here of the pumpkin. If I hold shift and click each of them, I'm going to change these colors. Now very important when you're selecting multiple faces, don't click on just a line. See how I have just a line highlighted? If you ever click a line while you're selecting multiple things, the colorization will not work. So you need to make sure you're selecting faces only. So I'm holding shift and I'm going to select all these different things. I'm going to tilt my view here so I can see the inside. Grab all those faces through the eye hole here, or whatever hole you've got that you can see. And I'm basically just choosing as many of the backside as I can. Alright, once you have most of the backside selected, so those are the only ones we're going to be able to see anyway, right click on one of the faces and go to properties, and under your as feature for the colors, I like to use metal hot, like 1800 or 2400 degrees Fahrenheit. This is going to make kind of a glow, inner glow kind of thing. So I'm going to click the 2400 degrees Fahrenheit and click OK. And so now it looks like it's glowing in the middle, and that would be a good pumpkin. So those are the two things that you want to make sure you do. So you're designing your own face. You need to have a pumpkin with a stem on it and your own face, and the face should have black around the eyes, and it should appear to be glowing inside. Make sure that you save your work often throughout this thing. Save reminders even come up. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to name this pumpkin 2. Because I've already made one. And to turn this in, you're going to drop it in the Dropbox. And I don't want to see it in isometric view. What I want to see is a front view slightly off kilter like this. So click your front view and then turn the pumpkin a little bit so I can just see the face at an angle slightly. And I also want you to use your zoom tool to zoom in so that the pumpkin takes up most of the screen. Okay? Your pumpkin should be taking up most of the screen, and you're going to go up to Environments, Inventor Studio, Render Image. Your width is going to be 1024, and your height is going to be 768. You're going to use current lighting, shaded, all this, just keep the same. Go to Output, select the third to highest, so high anti-aliasing. Hit Render. And see this? My pumpkin still isn't taking up the entire screen. So what I'm going to do is close this, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Just a little bit more, because you want the pumpkin to take up as much of the screen as possible. I'm going to hit Render again. That's getting better. It could zoom even a little bit more, so I'm going to zoom that in just a little bit more. Hit Render. And that's good. That's taking up a good portion. The stem should be close to the top. The base should be close to the bottom. This is a good final image. Go ahead and hit Save. Make sure you're saving it to your H drive. To your isometric shapes folder would be fine. And make sure you choose as type, you want to choose JPEG. And you're going to name this the way you name files whenever you turn them in. So what you do is you're going to type the number of your periods. So if you're in period 1, type 1, and then underscore, last name, underscore, first name, underscore, and then project title, which would be pumpkin. Okay, so obviously these would be your last name and first name. Make sure you put last name first and first name second. Save the JPEG and drop it into the Dropbox, and then that's how you're going to turn this in. Okay, make sure that you have a unique face and that you've created the pumpkin so that it looks realistic.